let me first start by kind of telling our story, how we got to where we are today. Um, so a number of years ago, I was actually doing work with the NBA's Player Association in Manhattan, and some really amazing organizations, the Union for the NBA. They have in Midtown Manhattan this skyscraper, and the 20th floor, there's a full court basketball area, gym, weight room, and then they also had motion capture technology. And so for me, that was the first time I'd ever seen, like I think for most people, anything like that, the ability to basically use technology in a healthcare or fitness setting to provide data. And what was telling for me was even people who their living is their body still were walking out smiling, clearly motivated by it. And it was intriguing to me. What's the issue is really two key things. One is it's exorbitantly expensive, like a couple $100,000 for a full room. I mean, there are cheaper alternatives, but you're spending at minimum tens of thousands of dollars. But also, you really needed kind of a PhD in biomechanics to read it. There was way too much information, good information, but not necessarily what's going to be most relevant to a customer probably coming in here or to the average trainer. By total coincidence at the time, when I was living in New York, I was also going to physical therapy for my back. And my physical therapist actually used this tool, the goniometer. So I'd be going from my day, seeing all of the technology that was available that could help, to seeing someone say, okay, lift up your arm, walking around, holding this in place. And I had significantly less experience than any of you, but even I could see like, this is bizarre that this technology exists and can really help people and really works. And yet it's not being used. And what is being used is subjective. And the thinking began, what if we could kind of take the best of both worlds? What's nice about this is it's easy to use, it's accessible, and it's affordable. That's the biggest thing, it's affordable. So what if we could create a technology that was easy to use, that was affordable, but gave the objective data and the high fidelity experience that's going to motivate someone? And even then, take it a step further. Why is that relevant? It took me a while to realize this, but most people don't know how they move. They think they know how they move until you show it to them. And even just seeing here, Evans was walking me through what the process is where you're filming on your phone. I would venture to guess the reaction for a lot of people, they're like incredulous. Is that really me? Is that what I look like? The goal with any technology isn't just new cool stuff, but is this going to change the conversation? Is it going to change the dynamic? Are they going to be able to see how they're moving? And by way of what you're able to show them and the journey you're able to put in front of them, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to help, are they going to be that much more motivated? And so I spent time working with our key founder, David Holomakov, who's a biomedical engineer, and other software engineers and physical therapists, fitness professionals, spending years developing a technology. And that's what you have right here. And the idea is something that is fast, easy, affordable, and allows you to communicate. So how does it work? Let me get a little kind of geeked out about the way this technology works. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the business case, how other businesses are leveraging this. And then really, I want to turn it to you for questions, anything that I can speak to. So the first thing to know is this isn't a normal camera. It's a 3D camera. It's using a technology that you're starting to maybe hear about more and more called LiDAR. It's used in self-driving cars. What's that?
Say that one more time.
LiDAR, LIDAR. It's used in self-driving cars and archaeology and now CMU Fit. But basically, here's what's going on. And I want to explain this because it'll make it more clear. When you're capturing with your phone, right, and you're walking around, you're capturing in 2D. So you need to say, okay, either hold that pose or walk to the next position. You can't necessarily see when you're looking forward, well, what's happening with the spine? How would this look from a sagittal plane? All of these other elements that are going to, we are 3D creatures that allow you to see the interconnectedness through the kinetic chain, how they may look from different vantage points. But with this camera, you can't. So what happens? So I could have someone squat, I'll click record. Infrared light is emitted from the camera. Now you can't see it, but what's happening is it then bounces off what's in front of it, the person moving, the wall, ceiling, and floor. It reflects back and gives us this rough map of 3D space. What then we do is start to, using artificial intelligence, identify markers on that map that we just ingested, elbows, knees, etc. And then the last step in that process is we calculate the angle and distance between those different markers. The reason I'm emphasizing that is because what this is going to allow you to do is not just say, pick up a video or even calculate the maximum range of motion, but to identify compensations, to identify asymmetries, to basically get that same 360-degree view that you would be getting in person with the clinical eye. However, now it's doing all of the work of collecting objective data for you. One more word before I think it'd be fun or helpful to walk into like a tutorial. Right? So I'll ask for a volunteer in a moment. But before I do, let me just kind of share this. When we were building this out, this just shows business like life is a journey. And we thought, well, we just created an affordable, objective tool. This is going to be great. Everyone's going to love it. And people did. But what happened quickly? They'd say, well, great, but I'm a small business owner or I'm a big business owner. How do I leverage this to help my business? As much as I like good data, I need to know how this helps. And what we found is the following use case. Most places that we work with provide an initial consultation, much like you do here. And in that initial consultation, they're understanding the status quo. What's this person's goal? What's their injury history? Why are they here, right? And then they'll do a Kinotek screening. They'll collect an initial data set. And in that data set, more often than not, you're going to identify, oh, look, their thoracic spine is compensating when they lift up their shoulders. Oh, look, they're shifting their weight. There's some hip adduction there when they're going into their squat. Leveraging that data to be able to say, hey, Andre, you had mentioned that you want to get back on the playing field, but you have that knee pain. Well, I think really that's coming from your compensation at your hip. Let me show you. I click play, I show the video, or I show the numbers, or I read out what Kinotek is saying, and then to be able to say, hey, we have a great trainer, Amanda here at CNU Fit. I think if you did 4 personal training sessions, or the 5-on-1 group session that we have, or the stretch class that we have, we're going to be able to reduce that pain, or we're going to be able to help you accomplish that goal. And so it's the difference of being able to leverage data to give them a sense of where they're at and motivate them to where they can get to go. One more thing on that before I do a walkthrough of the platform. I'm always interested in not assuming that I know better, but wanting to learn from you. What really is the true value here? So I asked that to a recent customer, and what she said really stuck with me. I said, look, you're using Kinotek in the use case I just described, but you don't need Kinotek. You could do what you're doing here. You could film on your phone. You could eyeball it. Why do you need this? What is this offering that what you're doing now doesn't? And it was a critical new perspective I gained. So here's what she said. She said, do you know much about cars? So I don't know much about cars at all. So when you go to an auto mechanic, and the auto mechanic says, oh, this part or the other is broken, it's going to be $5,000. What's your instinct? I don't trust this person. They're just trying to sell me something. How do I know that I even need this? I feel uneasy, which is understandable. The average person here doesn't know that they need personal training, doesn't know that they think you're lying, but they're just operating from a place where they don't know right from left. It's a different conversation, though, if that same auto mechanic says, well, I put this through this technology that did an assessment of your vehicle. And look at the data that it said. It says that you need this new part. I can help fix that. Well, now it's a subtlety, but that conversation has changed. I'm not just the pushy salesperson trying to sell you one more thing that you aren't sure you need. Instead, I'm your partner. I just went and got data objectively, expert opinion, and I'm here to say, hey, based off of this third party, I can help you. So now I'm not defensive. Now it's like, great, I found Andre, he showed me the data, he's gonna help me get to where I need to go. So with that, that's just a bit of background, how we got here, how this is being used. And I'll add, we're now in almost all 50 states, used by clubs that are enterprise level to small businesses, and by and large are using it as a means of offering really, I think, three core values. Objective data, but objective data that's used to generate new revenue, to bring in new clients, and to differentiate their brand as being on the cutting edge. So who can I ask to do a couple movements, or one movement? We'll just do the overhead squat.
Let's do our new guy.
Okay.
Welcome, dude.
Welcome, Jason. Then you can kind of joining in from Zoom.
Yeah, so
Jason's
here,
ready to come ready to play ball.
can you see my screen okay?
It's not, yep, perfectly.
Okay. So all we'll need to do, so this is my homepage. I have Evans here. So a couple things. First, I have all 65 movements. Right away, by the way, this is a key differentiator with our product. Most might have one or two. This is everything from a golf swing to an overhead squat. So you can tailor your protocol to what you want to do and standardize across your locations or practice.
Can you add as well?
Based off of requests, yeah,
Okay.
we love to know what you want that may not be in here.
Okay.
There is a sandbox mode, so if I selected other, where it is, I could do that, but we haven't necessarily added the movement you're going to do in front of the system, so we can't guarantee it will be optimal.
Do you have like a basketball shot on there?
Ooh, I wish we don't.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. What most people do though is they create a protocol. This is for my new members. This is for my shoulder, my knee pain. So what they do is they can mix and match and say, okay, let's do our Kinotek full body assessment. Boom. So now I have all my movements here for my full body assessment. We'll just do 3 quick movements.
Okay.
All right, I click screen. And perfect. So one thing, Lenanda and Andre, thank you. I was just going to say to step out of the camera view. And then, if you don't mind, just stand on the 7-foot marker facing the camera. So one thing I have to stress is you guys are busy. You have a lot going on. This will only work if it's fast. So I recommend you should always have like a Kinotek station, just kind of like you have here, so that I don't need to set anything up. I just walk up to my laptop. All right, let's get your feet shoulder width apart. Arms up like so. I'm going to count you down and just go to your lowest squat possible and come right back up in 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. I can redo it if I need, but I can move on to the next one very quickly. Just to show you other features, I can do a countdown. So for this one, start like so, try to keep it like a straight line. And then I just want you to externally rotate, internally rotate, back to starting. And I click this countdown, so you can actually look here. 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. And then last, let's do some shoulder flexion. So arms by your side, thumbs facing forward, take 1 step forward to the 6-foot, perfect. And then just when I count you down, reach as high as you can and go back down. In 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. Awesome. And so then I can just exit this out and start by clicking view report. And the key thing, what I show you here, the way I think about it is it's like a menu. There's lots of different things that we can show that you can use, but you may think, depending on the client or your business, I don't necessarily need to show all of this.
So yeah, you guys can come back. So first, let me actually jump to this report. So this is only available on the overhead squat to start, but we're adding it now to the others. So first, this is going to have your logo right here. Subtle thing, but it's important, right? Because this is about your brand. You want them to, when they think of seeing you fit, they're thinking about the high quality, high tech experience. What this is going to first call out is, hey, what are the strengths? So in this case, quite symmetrical parallel squat on the depth. What are areas for improvement? Keeping your torso more upright or reducing your hip shift. How did this look currently? How should this look optimally? And again, think about this in the context of the conversation that you're now having, or even the sales pitch that you're having. And then what I can do is down here, it lists what are areas to work on. So you might jump just right here. You get the squat down, and now I can just talk right to this person. Okay, we're going to work on mobilizing your right hip because it looked like it was internally rotating, strengthen your mid back and your rotators. And I'd imagine you can tell me, like, based off of what's written here, you might know an exercise program that can work on these pieces. Is that fair?
Mhm.
Perfect. So I can now print it, give it to them. I can also, if you want, we have more of the actual numbers. So all this is showing, I'm going to zoom in here. What was their maximum range of motion? Right and left. These arrows, this was on a prior account, are just indicating change over time. If I can see their improvement. And what's the asymmetry between the left and right? We also give a range. So this is supposed to be context. What is quote unquote normal? Well, you can edit it based on their goals. They're in the range, they're green, below the range, red, above the range, purple. And so here I may be able to see pretty quickly, looks like you have limited mobility with your right shoulder internally rotating, and that you were compensating with your spine as you were doing that. And I'll show you what that looks like. And at its best, this is hopefully a new conversation. They say, well, why am I 79? And I would share what I just did. It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do to fix that? And how many exercise programs do I need? What sort of training should I sign up for? There's a level of engagement here because it's now not just me looking and talking to you, but I have numbers, I have it written out, strengths, opportunities, and then also what I have.
So can we go back here?
Yeah.
Because I do want you to stay on that here, but let's say if we're on this page, I
Yeah.
think the conversation, and you can correct me if I'm off,
Sure.
could be around like, hey, did you have a shoulder injury at some point? No. Well, the reason why we look at asymmetry is because if you have a asymmetry from left to right, your risk for injury can increase. And that's the reason why we may want to focus on fixing that asymmetry even before increased range of motion, range of motion, you have good range of motion, So that's kind of like how that, like, hey, this is here. Is there a challenge that you experienced? Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Oh, no. Okay, cool. That's a warning sign that something may come up. So before we go heavy on overhead lifts and things like that, we're going to work on that shoulder flexion to ensure that you can lift at the same height, because it will put you at risk.
That's it. Go ahead.
I would tie in with the embody,
Yes.
because that's exactly what I talk about. If you have more muscle mass,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with range of motion.
Segmental.
What's nice about this versus the in-body, this was what a customer said. So I can't change someone's body fat very quickly. That's going to take time. But after a single stretch, I may be able to show someone an increase in range of motion. That's another thing just to consider. What you could do is after you've done the stretch, maybe you redo one of these movements to be able to say, hey, just in that 20 minutes or that hour, I've increased your shoulder mobility 5 degrees. Imagine what we can do in a month. It's powerful. And you're absolutely right, Evans. There's also real, it's a memorable interaction when you're able to say, hey, it looks like something happened to your right side. And not everyone's going to have that injury. Some will say, no, I didn't even know. But that sense of, wow, this person really knows. They even knew just based off of the numbers, my injury history. The other thing here too, I want to stress is some people say, well, I don't know how to read this report. And that's fair. There's different levels of expertise. But you know so much more than I do. All I'm looking for here are a couple things. What are highlighted asymmetries? So anything above 5 degrees is going to be marked red. So automatically I should be looking there. Where is there an asymmetry? And how big is that asymmetry? So in this case, left shoulder. And then what I'm also looking for, in particular for me, are do they lack mobility? So if this was, say, instead of 175, 140, so like particularly low relative to the range. The other thing that may take a little more time are things like thoracic spine extension or thoracic spine flexion or hip adduction, where I'm looking at compensation, where it seems counterintuitive. I want the degree to be a smaller number, not a bigger number, because the smaller number would indicate they're not moving. If there's a large degree of hip adduction, they're probably shifting to the side, something like that. So these are just the things that it may take a little using the product, but that you can look at it and it'll highlight the issue. But even more importantly is to be able to go right here and it'll do all the work for you, where it's looking at what's their movement quality. When I go further down, I'm going to jump around. I also get this video. So maybe I want to show them the video because that's how they understand their movement. But what I can also do, I have this simple 3D model, or some people want to see the 3D avatar. And I come back to the idea of the menu. You know this person better than I do. What is going to resonate with them? Are they a numbers person? Are they a video person? Are they all of the above? But these are the tools at your disposal to make the sale, to demonstrate what you can do with them and the status quo of how they're moving. What I like about the 3D avatar, as opposed to the video, is that it's 3D. So if I want to show someone, hey, look at it from this view or from the transverse view, I may be able to manipulate the avatar to show them what I want. So let me just play this back. This is your squat. Let me actually, I'm going to go to a different example because you're too good. I want to show where someone's not doing a good squat. What
You want mine? Let's rescreen me real quick.
We could. Yeah, I was just going to, if you don't mind, just in the interest of time. Yeah, let me go. It was actually on your account from before. So what I like to do is make it interactive. Instead of talking at the person, I'd rather just say, hey, I'm going to pull this up. Tell me what you see here on your squat. What do you guys see?
Limited shoulder mobility in the left, and on the right side, asymmetrical shift.
Exactly. That's the key piece, the asymmetrical shift. And I bet this person doesn't realize that they're doing that, or at least the extent to which they're doing it. And it's that light bulb moment of like, wow, okay, now you got my attention. I didn't realize, what are we going to do about that? And now you've just stretched them. So they're feeling good. It's like, let me rescreen you right here and show you the difference since that stretch. Or if we keep doing this for the next number of weeks, we're going to improve on that. And all you need to do is keep coming back for the stretching program. I also, if you want, I have these graphs here on the left. The graphs I find to be really helpful for the right audience. So what are they showing? This shows what's the change in range of motion during the course of the movement. Why is that important? Well, up here, I see the discrete numbers. I can see what's their maximum knee flexion to the number. That's great, but maybe they moved in a way to get there that warrants correction. That wasn't all that great. Well, with these graphs, I can see, okay, so blue is right, green is left. I can see over the course of 8 seconds how their range of motion changed. And look, these lines are on top of one another. So that's saying to me, symmetrical, at least throughout the movement. But look at the hip AB and adduction. Look at this gap. So I often will say, I'll click right here. Notice the avatar changes. Then I slow it down. I usually click the area. All right, going deeper into the squat. This gray line that's coming up, this is the maximum depth of the squat. So here you are at the bottom of it. I'm going to click play through. And you can see you get symmetrical when you start to lift yourself back up. And talk about how in order to get deeper into the squat, they're shifting to the side. They may not be aware of that and why that is, and the kinetic chain and all of the other influencing factors to why they're moving the way that they are. It just provides the context and data needed for them to be motivated. And what's going to end up happening is whether it's the next visit or the 5 visits from, they're going to want to do this again because they're going to want to see how much better I am. Right now, the way that they know they're getting better is probably pain or physically. Do they look better? This is adding a whole nother way to show the value that you're providing. Yeah, Andre.
With the suggestions up top, was that something you guys recently added?
You know,
Because
it's
I don't
funny.
remember that last time.
I'm smiling because as I was showing that, you should have seen your face. You were like really looking like, what's that? Yeah, we just, in fact, we've only released that to select users on Monday. That's going out to everybody. And the reason we added that was twofold. One, I don't mean this as a dig, I've just been surprised at a lot of trainers, when I go to that page that has the numbers, don't know what to do with that. And so it's basically helping everyone to understand it. But also it's a time saving thing too. Even if you can understand those numbers, it's a lot easier to just go to this page and get the headline. And notice we're not giving a diagnosis. We're not giving even an exercise program. You're the expert. This is a tool, not a replacement. So the idea is you could just, if you wanted to, have them do the movement, quickly look at the areas to work on, and you're good to go from there. Just a shortcut.
Yeah, I remember that last
Can
time.
I see my,
Your rotation?
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
that's mine.
Yeah, let's go.
Right.
This is your rotation. So here's what I'll point out. I'm going to move you to this view. Notice what you're doing, what your spine is doing on this. Don't even worry about your arms. Right. So you're good there, but you're about to, there. You see that lean forward? It's subtle, but basically what you were doing is when you were internally rotating just a little bit, going like this, you're probably not even aware of it. And it's one of the most common compensations that I see people. The other really common one is where they're leaning back or they're leaning back. And it's this weird thing where it's the mind and the body. You know where you want to go and you think that's what you're doing, but in reality, you're manipulating your body so that you feel like you're going back further, that your shoulders are more mobile than they actually are. This was good, by the way. This was pretty solid. What are some other, questions or things I can speak to? Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the little mat.
Yes.
And I see that there's like the feet is on there. So what's like the difference, like with the camera?
Yeah.
How does-
So first piece is I'm gonna on Monday when I'm back in the office ship you guys a new mat. This shows you guys have been customers or partners for a while, so we have a better mat to send you. But there is still relevance to what you're saying. So let's go back to the camera. I'm gonna shift to like the do's and don'ts. So remember how I was talking about the infrared light that comes out of it. So there is an opportunity to screw up what the quality of the data is that's coming back to the camera. What's the most common culprit? A person inadvertently blocking themselves. So think about touching your toes, going down. My arms are going to block my knees. So the infrared light that I was talking about from this camera, it's never going to hit my knees because my arms are blocking it. It's going to hit my arms. So to your question, I may want to position someone for that movement. at a slight angle, hands on hips, bend at the hips. So now I'm not blocking myself at all. It's capturing enough of my body that it can calculate those sorts of things. Really good question. That's the thing. That's why, by the way, let me jump to this for a second, just as an example. So Evans, let's go back to the squat. Do you know how to instruct someone on how to do a squat? Of course. So why do you even need these instructions? Because sometimes for that reason that you just uncovered, Lananda, you're going to want to position them in a way that's slightly different than you normally would. Like for internal and external rotation, I know there are lots of ways. Some people are going to be measuring that. But what we found was a way in which they're not going to block themselves is by doing that. So keep an eye here on distance, which we call out on the mat. 90% of the movements are at 6 or 7 feet. Client position, similarly, vast majority are just standing facing the camera. And what's nice is most places are doing no more than 3, maybe 5 movements. It becomes second nature really quickly. You don't need to remember this stuff, but it's here for you.
Can you speak to, like, notice when you had him squat, you didn't have him hold it for 2 seconds at the bottom.
Yeah, that's good catch. It asks for that more as a caution so that no one's moving too fast. I'm more of a, if I'd rather have them do it naturally, and if it's too fast for it, redo it, then say pause. But it's kind of your prerogative.
Well, would that cause like when you played it back that it went all weird?
What probably I noticed that for a split second, it probably lost tracking for a moment, and I have to look at what might have caused that in that split second. What I did really quickly want to call out though is 2 things here: camera angle and camera height. So every movement you want at a 6-degree angle, tilted upwards. And this tripod doesn't have it. Most that we provide, at least all new customers, have a line at the top where if you just make that line straight, it'll be at 6 degrees. Otherwise, you can take out, every iPhone has the measure app. Just go to level, place it on top, make sure it's at 6 degrees. Now the pelvis height,
Wait till we had a 7 degree.
No, I think we put it as. maybe
But is that 7 or 6 hours?
6
I was
degrees.
right there though.
What's that?
What is it at?
You guys had it at. This was now at 6 degrees.
Okay, so it was.
It wasn't set.
Yeah.
Now the pelvis height, I get questions about that a lot. Most of the movements, that's the height. You don't need to adjust it for every single person, only if there's a major discrepancy. If you have someone really tall and then really short, maybe you want to raise or lower it. But if we're talking a matter of inches and it's in and around the pelvis area, you should be fine. How do you think, let me question for you, how do you think your clients would react to this flow in terms of going through, showing them?
I feel like they will be very interested. Like our clients are pretty good on asking questions and like getting clarification on like why they're doing certain things. So I think you kind of hit it on the nail earlier when you said like it's different when we tell you something versus like actually like showing you the numbers. So I think being able to show them the numbers and show them like what it looks like is definitely going to help us for like the trust aspect of the relationship between us and clients.
That's the key word, is trust. And it took me years to know that that's what our business was. I thought I was in the business of data, and we are, but it's about feeling. It's about that sense of, okay, I'm in good hands. Andre's going to take care of it. He knows what to do here. He's going to get rid of that knee pain. He's going to help me accomplish that goal. This is just a piece of establishing that trust. That's exactly right. How about when it comes to like integrating it into the pitch? How do you guys feel about that? What can I speak to that'd be helpful there?
You said the pitch?
Yeah,
Or
like the sales pitch.
Yeah, like those 3 don't do it, but you could talk, but they don't do consultations. It's really Will, myself, and
Okay.
Amanda. Okay, you could say
I
something.
was just gonna say something like from personal
Yeah.
experience. I did a DEXA scan.
Yep.
Like the body scan.
Yep.
And I had thought that I was leaner than I was. And after it, I was like, I need to like go to work. And at the end of the summer, I was holding off to do it again because I wanted to know that when I did it again, it was gonna be a better result. And it motivated me to do that.
There you go. That's the key piece is motivation, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can leverage whether it's because it's a similar phenomenon. This is essentially the DEXA scan for movement or the in-body for movement. If you can leverage the information as a means of motivating them to do stretch, to do personal training, whatever it is, then it's working. So the fact that you're saying you felt that way here, that's exactly what you're going for in the consultation too.
Yeah, I can also see this like as a means, like say like for one of the consultations, it could be like a stretch consultation and you're still doing the Kinotek. Now that client might potentially become a personal training client. So that could be like a upgrade or upsell for us.
That's you're spot on. And that's been a learning for us. That's where a lot of our customers are using this, where they will work with an existing client in one context and then use the data to say, hey, I think offering A, B, C, or D would also help you based upon this data. And that's exactly right. We have one customer, I'll mention their name, Health Tracks. So I think they might have one in Delaware, but they're mostly in the area. They have a stretch and flex program. That's exactly how they use this. They go to people who are in personal training or general members. They offer a free screening or a free consultation, and then say, hey, looks like you need help with that limited knee mobility. We have stretch and flex. And it becomes, because of the trust that it's able to cultivate, a key upsell right there. Amanda, were you going to say something? Okay. Evans, anything I can answer from you, having worked with it?
No, I kind of, you answered most of it. So, how important is the map?
Only as important as it is to tell the person where to stand.
Yes.
Meaning, I have customers who are like, I don't like the mat. I put a decal on the floor, or I use tape. That's fine. There's nothing magical about the mat. It's just to tell someone where to stand. So if you have a preference, toss it.
I was just curious. And then the other thing is, can you speak to, I know it's still in beta, but you know, I've used the iPhone and my iPad to do some screenings.
Yeah, so this is what let me give a little bit of a longer answer. Let's step back for a second. So 2024, we've had two major goals from a product standpoint. One was the report that you saw. How do we make the data we're presenting more accessible to a trainer who's right out of college to the PhD and then back to the customer? So it needs to be understandable. And that's the report that we showed you. And we're going to keep building on it, adding more movements, adding more information. The other one is what you're asking about, Evans, and that's how do we get our technology onto other devices than just the camera? So right now we have in beta, and I can make it accessible to everyone here if you'd like, the ability to use any device that has a 2D camera to collect, to do a Kinotek screening. Though there's a couple differences. So the biggest difference is we only have 5 movements on that versus the 65. The other big difference that you wouldn't notice, but I find really interesting is I walk through how we're using infrared light and that process. Completely different with the phone. Far more reliant on artificial intelligence because we're taking 2D information and using AI to make inferences about what that would look and measure like in 3D. Not anything you would need to deal with, but that's why it's a lot harder to validate movements. Certainly I can't do it. We have better engineers than me. But the other key difference is it's designed for a B2B to C experience. It's designed for your clients to be able from home to screen themselves from their phone and be able to get data. In fact, if you give me a minute, I'll pull up an example.
And I have some in my thing, if you want to pull it up. I have some that I did. on the camera as well.
Oh, okay. This will just take me 1 second.
And then while you're doing that, can you speak to the crisscross? Because we do see that a little often.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on that screening why that happened, but I can tell you why it would happen. The reason it would happen would be a couple different things. It could be a moment, basically it's the camera saying, I lost tracking for that split second. And that could be because the person was blocking themselves. It could be because for a moment, I've seen where black can absorb infrared light and reflect back less. So there's momentarily, you might not be able to get it clean through. Do know that the data that you're seeing is disassociated from the animation. So it's not going to impact the data. It might impact the animation that you're getting.
Cool. So I don't have to rescreen them.
You would not. I mean, within reason. If it's truly like the entire screening is messed up, then redo it. If it was like we just had where it was clean, but there was like a second where the leg crossed, that you shouldn't need to redo. That's just a moment where the animation didn't have any data coming to it. So this is the mobile.
You have to share your screen.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so this is in beta. It should be released in the next couple months. And here's the idea before I even press play, is it's designed so they don't need to download an app. What you can do is you'd send a link. You can send a link to 1,000 people or to one person. They click on the link, they add in their user information, and then they're put through an assessment like this. So at the top, it would be, how do I record? How do I set up my device? All of this, when they're ready, they click start. It'll tell them what they need to do, so neck rotation. Once they're ready, they click got it. And then this is really cool. The phone, what we programmed this to be able to do is identify when the person's in frame. So you don't need to click start or anything like that. I would just position this on my desk or whatever. It's going to say looking for you. And then once you're in frame optimally, it'll just start counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You do your movement. Notice it doesn't need to be in a clean setting. It can just be in an office or anywhere. And then they're on to the next movement and so on and so forth. And all of that data is going to go right into your Kinotek, you as the provider or the trainer. So you could, in theory, send a link to someone before they ever come in here. Say, hey, we're looking forward to your first visit. Do a couple movements before you get here. They do what you just saw at home. Before they get here, you go into Kinotek, you look up their name on your dashboard, and you'll have access to all of their data that has already been recorded. So you might not even need to film them in here. What we Well, the one thing I would just stress that's been interesting for me is the most common use case that we're starting to see from our beta testers is it's a great top of funnel tool to gain awareness and create new customers. So couple examples I'll just throw at you. One of our testers offers a free consultation online, but finds that something like 70% of people don't show up because it's free and they forget or they get busy and they have no skin in the game, right? But when they send them an email with a link to do the screening like I showed you, that went from only showing up 30% of the time to more than 60% of the time. For the same reason that you might think, like, well, I want to find out how I did. And I'm only going to find out if I show up to my appointment. And what they shared with us is the hard part is getting them to the appointment. Once they're there, their conversion rate is quite high. So that's been a really interesting tool. I have another tester who has sent the link out to everyone who they've discharged over the last year. Said, hey, hope your movement health is doing well. Let's find out. Take this quick exam. And they're finding that that's bringing new people into the fold. We also have beta testers who are exploring using it as an ad unit, using it on their website, using it in email marketing campaigns.
it just becomes one, a way to differentiate your brand. Two, something that's a lot more interactive than a webinar or a quiz or something like that. And thereby creates new customers who want to find out more about what you're offering. And if this is the experience I'm getting from home, I can only imagine what it's like in the facility.
I love it. I love it. So last thing is from home, because we got the beta, and of course you can pick which ones they do. So the question is the quality of the reporting. So if I do the overhead squat at home, am I gonna get something similar or the same as if I came in and did it?
If you're following the movement instructions, then yes, you should be. Now they won't, if you're just talking about mobile, they won't, at least initially, have access to the data on their own device.
Correct.
So that's ported over to you, and you'd be able to see what the data quality is before they do. But if there are, I didn't walk through it, kind of guides, don't stand in this area, do stand in that area, clothing. It's nothing too crazy, but just kind of best practices. But if they're followed, then yeah, they should be accurate and consistent.
That's really cool. We can do it for events, like, hey, sign here and get a free movement report.
Yeah. That's been, it's a little different, but what you're reminding me of, that's when I have a lot of customers who take the camera to events because it's a great way. Hey, free movement assessment. Someone comes up, you do one squat, you quickly show them, hey, then it becomes basically the console miniature. Hey, this is what we saw right here. Person just walking by. This is what we saw right here. We're, seeing you fit. We're just a mile away. Here's my card. I noticed that bad knee. Come on in. We can help you with that. So it's just another really easy way, cost-effective way to find new customers.
Cool. I like it.
Lananda, sorry.
Yeah, so when you do the assessment in here,
Yeah.
you can share the link to the clients after or no?
Yeah, not the link. What you can do is you can share it as a PDF.
Okay.
Yeah. And email it to them. We eventually will explore kind of and this is going hand in hand with the mobile piece, a customer login so that they can gain access to some of their data, but that's not in the immediate future.
Yeah, I like the fact that the customer has to interact with the business to get the information.
Correct.
So there's a pull-through mechanism versus hey, I never need to talk to you. I went online and see what I needed. I know you gotta go train, so do your thing. I need to talk to you. No stretch, yeah.
And to that point, I think at least what the testers are stating initially is it's a great
Get on moving screen.
It's a great email capture tool as well. You have to put in your email in order to get that screening.
Cool. Any other questions? Everybody knows how to do a moving screen now?
And I'm available, I work for you guys, so Evans has my information. If you want a more in-depth training on how to use this, how to integrate it, I'm here to help and happy to hop on a Zoom or whatever you need.
Or ideas for movement. Too.
Or ideas, seriously. We started with just the overhead squat. Those 65 all came from experts like you saying, hey, it'd be really cool if you could do this or that. And what we're really interested in is not just the movement itself, but the why. What are you trying to measure and why are you trying to measure that? Because there may be existing movements or other ways that we can help you get to that information without us having to add it.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't ever hesitate to let us know.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you're gonna do a movement screen, not real time.
Let's do it.
Share the screen if you could.
Yeah.
And what's their name?
CHEYL.
Black car. Is
Oh.
that yours?
It is.
Okay,
It's a rental.
there you go.
Thank you.
So I have to be on display.
Yes.
So
This is gonna be embarrassing.
Cheryl, and then what's your last name?
Kapes, Kapes.
All right.
Oh, you're not sharing the screen.
I'll give me 1 second. Okay, so Cheryl, we'll just do an overhead squat
This is the overhead squat and the internal.
and the internal rotation.
Mhm.
Okay. So Cheryl, all I need you to do is stand at the 7-foot mark and face me. And you can see on the screen the video feed. So feet shoulder width apart. And then your arms up. And then when I count you down, just do a squat to whatever you're comfortable with. Try to keep your heels on the ground.
Just remember my age.
Hey, there's no judgment. And then come right back up. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. And then next one is shoulder rotation. So your arms like so. And then when I count you down, just rotate back as far as you can, in as far as you can, and then back to the start. So it'll be like
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. That's it. And
Get the results together.
yeah,
That wasn't too fast?
shouldn't be.
Okay.
Okay. So first, let's go right here.
He's really fussed with, not as,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my squat. I know how to go straight down.
Well, so first, you did an excellent job at, on your squat, maintaining your shoulder position. So
Mhm.
sometimes you'll see people on the overhead squat not be able to do that. So that's excellent. Now, what you might have all seen, but your right knee was kind of moving inward. Any reason you can think of why that would be, like an injury?
Tight. Just
Tight.
I'm a very tight person.
Got it. So yeah, that would be something on like after a stretch to see if it still does that.
I've
Uh,
always had problems with squats, like hurting the knees. So whenever, and like doing TRX and stuff, I always did against the wall.
That makes sense for that stability.
Yeah, so I always, then I could get down.
Well, you can really see that on the
Yeah.
next one where you were basically,
I'm over here. I'm overcompensating.
yeah, leaning forward instead of it
Right.
using your back.
Yeah.
So what they would probably work on is how do we keep that torso
Mhm.
nice and straight?
And then, oops, sorry. Down here, yeah, I noticed this a little too. When you were doing your squat, just a
Mhm.
subtle shift of your hip to the left. And so here are the different things that we're going to work on. We're going to work on mobilizing ankles and hip flexors. Overall, just look at the squat technique, kind of getting back out there, and maybe even using the wall for that technique in order to get there. And then strengthening the core and the upper back, because that'll trickle down the rest of the way. And so you could just, now speaking to the team here, kind of use this as, I think of it like Cliff Notes. It just gives you all of the headlines you would need. But down here, what I can also do is like, let's look at the actual data. And what this shows me is limited knee and ankle mobility. That's where I would really spend my time on, in particular, the ankles. Does that resonate? And then it picked up, you can see a little bit of that left hip shift. So that 5 degrees here, it's, even though it's green, it's on the high end of the region, of the range, saying, hey, that's something to pay attention to. And we can see, let's go and let's use this simple 3D. I'm going to zoom out a little. Can you guys still see this okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is your squat. And you can really see the shift here in the hip, like right here. Notice how you're turned to the side. And what I can do, showing the team here, I can also drop in plumb lines. which will make it that much more obvious that that Cheryl is moving, not just her hips, but now her upper body slightly to the side as she's going deeper into the squat. And so leveraging this to communicate exactly how the person's moving.
Okay.
Thank you.
You wanna look
Yeah,
at the
let's go.
shoulders real quick?
Yes, sure thing. If you're good with that, Cheryl?
Yeah, she-
Okay. So here, now we don't have that newer report, Andre, for the other movements. So for the shoulders, I go to the numbers.
Okay.
And again, I don't need to have a lot years of training to look at this. So when I am looking here, what jumps out at me? The first thing is this 9 degrees of asymmetry. So left internal rotation versus right. So what this is saying is you are much more able on your right side to go in than on your left side. Is there a have you ever had left shoulder pain or injury?
I have 2 tears, but it's not affecting me otherwise. You know what I mean? I'm pain in general, but I
Okay.
do have 2 tears.
On
But
both,
actually,
on
this
both
one's
sides?
worse, though.
On your left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's what it's picking up is that your left side, probably because of that tear,
It might, yeah,
isn't able to go in
yeah.
as much as your right. It's less mobile.
Mhm.
And there could be potentially knock-on effects below. So the first thing I'm looking for is there asymmetry? In this case, there is. And that conversation about, let me learn about your injury history, can be, it goes to the phrase you use, trust. You really know. The other thing I look at are compensations. So here, there's some, you can see it. Let's go with the 3D view. You're a good sports show because I'm not trying to pick on you here, but I want you guys to, I want you to see this.
Trust me, I find it.
So notice it may be easier with the plumb line. Cheryl, when she does her movement, is going to lean back right there to get that extra mobility. Whereas
So I'm
it's
marching.
exactly, instead of it coming from your shoulder,
Mhm.
some of it is coming from,
Mhm.
I'm exaggerating,
I know.
from your back. And so how did I know that, right? I don't know as much as you do. All I'm doing is saying, hey, look at this thoracic spine extension. It's highlighted red. Even if it wasn't highlighted red and it was green 16, I know it's at the upper end of this range. That's telling me, okay, there's some level of compensation here. If this was 25, then I'd really be interested in, like, that's extreme compensation. What I could also do, if I wanted, is click on this progress button. So this is only showing today, but over time, this becomes a graph showing exactly how Cheryl's improving while she's at CNU. Another tool that you can use.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Now you know what to work on. I didn't show them. Any questions with that guy? Everybody feels good about it? So now it's just a matter of getting the reps.
Yes.
Cool.